Dr. Jack is a Canadian pediatrician, author, speaker, and video producer specializing in breastfeeding medicine. He's the founder of the International Breastfeeding Center in Toronto, Canada, and the author of several breastfeeding books, including Dr. Jack Newman's Guide to Breastfeeding and Breastfeeding Empowering Parents. I've been following his work since my baby was born, so over 2 years ago now, and he's someone that I truly respect for his evidence-based work and for his support for breastfeeding women. So let's start with the questions, because we do have quite a few people here. We've got people from Canada as well, someone from Toronto, your neighbor, Dr. Jack. So
really?
Let's start, not exactly your neighbor, but someone from Toronto. I'm sure Toronto is big enough. Right. So first question, what is the latest official advice regarding breastfeeding during the outbreak that I can trust? As I've noticed, the CDC is just saying we don't know enough, while other health organizations are less afraid to advise mothers to keep breastfeeding. So on to Dr. Jack.
Yes, it's a problem. The Center for Disease Control in the United States is, as usual, very in thinking along the lines of American exceptionalism. They do things that nobody else does. And with regard to viral infections in mothers, they do it wrong, in my opinion. I think that what we really need to do here is follow the WHO, the World Health Organization, document on coronavirus and breastfeeding, which was published on the 13th of March, only a few days ago. And they very strongly say that mothers and babies should be kept together and should start breastfeeding if the baby was just born, not separated from the baby, and that if the baby is older, that they should continue breastfeeding. And I think that that is very reasonable, makes sense. After all, if the baby is, or the mother is infected, then the other one is infected too. There's no way you're going to get around such a close relationship between a breastfeeding mother and baby.
Right. Okay, so I have split the questions in a few different categories because we had quite a few similar questions, and after sorting them in different sections, we've ended up with about 17 questions. So we're going to try and go through all of them, and then if anyone else has any questions, we will try to get to them at the end, but it really depends on how we're doing with time. So the next few questions will be about transmission. So the first one is, I want to know if breastfeeding can spread the virus through milk, since there's not a lot of knowledge on the virus. I am worried about it.
Well, you shouldn't be worried about it. Now, we don't have a lot of information. There was a study published in The Lancet, a British medical journal, just a few days ago as well. And they were reporting a study that was done in China. This study in China showed that that when mothers were delivered by cesarean section, and all the mothers in this study were born by did deliver by cesarean section, there was no evidence of any virus in the amniotic fluid, and they did. There were only 9 babies though, or mothers, and they did. They looked for the virus in the breast milk of 6 mothers, and they found no virus in the breast milk. But even if there were virus in the breast milk, the baby is going to get infected anyway. And I think that we can't understate this too much, that the best protection for the baby is not separation from the mother. By the time the mother knows that she has the virus, by the time that happens, the baby already has been infected. I mean, the coronavirus is not different from other viruses in this sense. By the time you know you're sick, you've already had the infection for days, sometimes in other types of infections, even for weeks. So you are not causing the baby to get infected. Maybe the baby infected you. The continued close relationship between mother and baby makes all the difference in the world. And separating the mother and baby when both are infected makes absolutely no sense to me. But what does the breast milk do? The breastfeeding helps protect the baby. That's what breastfeeding is all about. It helps to protect the baby, not only for infections, but for all sorts of different things.
Perfect. I think we had a little bit of your voice cuts for one moment. We just had a little bit.
Oops, I just lost you.
But we didn't miss anything, I don't think. So the next question, Dr. Jack, and I think some of these questions are very hard to answer because we just don't know enough. But I'm going to ask them anyway, and then we can hear what you have to say. So how much less likely is for a baby to get COVID-19 if exclusively breastfed?
Well, as I say, if the mother and baby are breastfeeding, that baby has already had the virus from the mother. There's no way that you can get around that. They're in such close contact. Even if the mother is not skin to skin with the baby when she feeds the baby, although she will be sometimes. I mean, the baby's latched onto the breast. It's likely that both will be infected. But remember, most people that are infected don't get sick. Something that varies, but 70 to 80 or 85% of all people that are infected with the virus actually don't get sick. So, we don't always find out. But the thing is that the best protection for the baby is breastfeeding. And I mean breastfeeding, not express milk in a bottle, which is already a different thing.
Yes, we are going to talk a lot. There are questions about that as well. I think a lot of people have concerns about that. So that's coming in a moment. Next question about transmission is about how long can the protection from coronavirus from breast milk last? And I guess that's one of those that it's impossible to answer.
Well, of course, nobody knows. But I mean, the breastfeeding immune factors don't go away after 6 days or 12 months already. They're always there. So it's still the best protection for the baby.
Perfect. Right. So
by the way, let me add something more. People think of immunity of breast milk. They think of that as antibodies. But breast milk contains dozens of immune factors that are always there that help to protect the baby. And we are discovering, not me, but researchers are discovering all sorts of new immune factors that nobody ever suspected.
Right. Perfect. Okay. So the next set of questions, Dr. Jack, are about, they're more about separation and self-isolation. So the first question is, any thoughts on hospitalization while keeping the baby with you? Baby won't take a bottle.
Well, that's not the reason. The baby should stay with the mother because that's where babies belong. That, especially breastfeeding babies. The question of whether the baby takes a bottle or not is irrelevant in my opinion. That baby and mother should be together, and hospitals should understand that mothers and babies should be together, especially breastfeeding mothers.
Okay. So I'm due for a C-section in 4 weeks. AAP has been discussing separating mother and baby if mother has COVID-19, though they are recommending breastfeeding. I would be interested to know if separating mother and baby would be more detrimental and it would be more protective to keep mom and baby together, especially if they are breastfeeding.
Yes, absolutely. It's much better to keep mother and baby together. Mothers and babies share germs. By the time the baby is born, unless the baby was born by cesarean section, but I mean, how do you prevent contact between the mother and the baby, even if the baby is born by cesarean section? The American Academy of Pediatrics follows the Center for Disease Control, and they do not understand. In the United States, breastfeeding is the same as bottle feeding breast milk. That's not the same. And the best thing that can be done for that baby and that mother who share germs is to keep breastfeeding. We know that young children and probably young babies are much less affected by this virus. They can get sick, we know that, but they also shed the virus, but they tend to be less sick. I think the important thing is to keep that baby and mother healthy and keep them healthy by continuing breastfeeding, including skin-to-skin contact. That's what by the way, that's what the WHO says.
Okay, that's my questions. Next question. Right, so baby bed shares since birth and will not sleep away from me as he feeds all night long. I love bed sharing, and now I'm worried about having to separate and this affecting our breastfeeding relationship.
Well, don't worry about it. Don't do it. That's all. Continue doing what you're doing. Taking the baby away and putting the baby somewhere else does not protect the baby. It actually makes things worse, probably, because that baby will not be happy, will he? And he will be screaming. So you will lose sleep. And when you lose sleep, you get sicker. Don't do it.
Yes.
That is, don't separate.
Yes, I agree completely with that. That's what I always say on my page. Keep mothers and babies together, especially if you're trying to get more sleep, which is what my page is all about. And that's the way I think you should do it.
Well, it's the easiest, isn't it?
Exactly.
And if it comes to one of you has the coronavirus, then it's even more important that you stick together.
Exactly. Right. So next question. In terms of self-isolation, if mom and baby get it, should they be in a separate room from dad, or can the dad still help with the baby since the mom might be unwell?
Well, the mother and the baby should be together. The mother should be breastfeeding. The baby should be breastfeeding. It seems also unlikely that if the father has been living with the mother, on a 24-hour per day basis, that there's a very good chance that he got the infection too. So I don't think if the father can help, if the father can do things when the baby is not breastfeeding, that's fine. But most of the time, the mother and the baby should be together. Most people, remember, are not sick with this virus. But if the mother is sick, then the best place for her is bed, and the best place for the baby is in bed with the mother.
Right. Okay. So the next set of questions, Dr. Jackie, they are going to be about pumping and expressing. So you've mentioned something about it earlier, and we've got a few questions from people worried about having to express in particular. So if a breastfeeding mom catches the coronavirus, can it affect milk supply? And is it worth pumping a bit more than normal to build a freezer stash just in case?
I don't think anybody knows if the virus can affect breastfeeding. Illness in the mother sometimes, it seems, can decrease milk supply. But I think that, again, remember that most people are not sick with this virus. Just having the virus does not decrease the milk supply. That I'm willing to say. If you're sick with the virus, yes, it could decrease your milk supply. But pumping ahead in case, I don't know, relax, you'll be all right.
More stress, aren't you, to the situation?
Sorry?
You're creating more stress to a situation that is already stressful.
Right.
Okay. So that answers it. Next question. My 4-month-old baby is exclusively breastfed. I've never given a bottle or a breast. Should I freeze some milk in case of worst case scenario. So I guess that's very similar to the previous
Yeah.
question.
What's the worst case scenario? I mean, if
I feel
you're
worried about not being able to about being so ill that they won't be able to breastfeed.
oh, take the baby to bed and breastfeed.
Exactly. And I know actually from personal experience that I've been very ill. Not long after my baby was born, he was only 10 days. I had a very extreme case of mastitis, and I was in hospital for a week, and my temperature was up to the roof. Nobody knew what it was. Nothing could control it. And I thought I was going to die, but I still could breastfeed the baby. You know, it's, put the baby, you know, someone puts the baby next to you, I think the baby just latches on, and that's what you do. And I felt safer to have my baby next to me.
Sure. And although many doctors will say that you shouldn't breastfeed when you have mastitis, many doctors are wrong.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. Moving on. Next question. Is expressing less effective in terms of immune factors? And if expressing, should I give milk straight away, or there are still benefits to freezing? And what's the safe way to handle and store?
Well, breast milk is not formula. Breast milk is not any other sort of food. It's safe. You can use breast milk right away, or you can even store it for a while. But if you freeze it, you lose some of the immune factors, and breast milk stays very good on the table, on the counter for several hours, maybe even all day. So, you know, if you don't have to express, don't express, breastfeed. But if for some reason you're not breastfeeding and you're expressing milk and giving it to the baby another way, then, you know, that's okay. But it's still not as good as direct breastfeeding. So if you are direct breastfeeding, then just keep up with it and forget the pumping.
Right. Okay. Okay. So the last question about expressing. I can't get a drop when expressing and would like to know if it's worth getting formula in case I get the virus and become too ill to continue to breastfeed. And I think you've already answered that.
Okay, well, I'll just repeat it again. Go to bed with the baby and just keep the baby at the breast. I mean, even if you're in hospital on a ventilator, that can be done. And we have had mothers in hospital with very severe illnesses, not coronavirus, but with very serious illnesses. One who was in a coma from a car accident. The staff helped put that baby to the breast while she was in coma.
Wow.
And it worked.
Wow, that's amazing. Perfect. So I've got a few questions that may be related to relactation, or relactation might be a solution to.
Mm-hmm.
So first one, my son is weaned, but I'm now regretting having stopped too early, knowing the benefits of breastfeeding during this pandemic, and would like to know if there is anything I can do.
Yes, in fact, there is. And we have a whole protocol for relactation. I published this relactation protocol on my Facebook page, oh, I don't know, maybe 2-3 weeks ago, maybe a little longer than that. And it's very easy. But if you go through our website, there's a contact line on the website, and if you click that, there's a menu that drops, and then there's a Ask Dr. Newman a breastfeeding question. But go to the website and look at blogs. Under blogs, there is a article that's called Relactation. Go there first, because I can't be out on the internet 24 hours a day. Go to that, and it'll give you the information you need to prevent, to help you relactate.
Okay. I guess it's not a simple answer as to how you can relactate.
It isn't, because it would make a difference, say, if the baby is 8 months old and if the baby were 8 weeks old.
Yes.
That's a whole different approach.
Okay. So I think we do have a question actually. Yeah, the next question is a baby is 7 months and the mother is saying I supplement with formula because my supply is very low, but I'm worried about not finding formula at the moment and wondering if I can increase my supply at this point. So baby 7 months.
Sure. I mean, it's very easy to increase your supply. First of all, is to get rid of the bottles in the formula, because a baby of 7 months old should be eating food, not drinking from bottles. The baby should be eating food, and how much food? Not what they tell you, your doctor. The doctors always say, start with this and then add this. No, a 7-month-old can eat anything you eat, and give him as much as he'll take, as frequently as he'll take it, and don't worry about it. And therefore, he will take in lots of calories. If you're not sure he's taking in lots of calories, add oil or add your milk, or yet add cow's milk if you need to do that. Why would you give formula? Hey, there's no reason for formula. And the World Health Organization actually says that there's no need for formula after 6 months, even if the baby was never breastfed.
Right. And at that point is still, I guess, like you said before, it is still possible to relactate if she did want to get that protection from breastfeeding.
Yes, I mean, that particular question wasn't about relactation. It was about if they can't find formula. Well, you don't need formula at 7 months. And
I've actually seen, Dr. Jacks, I've actually received other questions from people previously saying that they are breastfeeding moms and they are exclusively breastfeeding their babies and they are stocking up on formula just in case they can't breastfeed their babies, and which is quite sad because there are babies that are actually dependent on formula. You know, there are babies that actually need the formula and they are not finding that.
That's right. That's exactly right. No, you've got the good stuff. Why would you buy the formula? Give it the formula to your formula feeding friends who we hear that in the UK and in the United States, we haven't heard about it here in Canada yet, but in the US and in the UK, they're running out of formula. Probably people are buying, gallons and gallons of it. Well, if you've got some, give it to somebody, because if you're breastfeeding, you've got the best stuff for your baby.
Perfect. So, so a little bit about older children. I do have a few followers who breastfeed, children above 2, and one of them wanted to know if the benefits of breastfeeding a child over 2, in particular when supply is minimal, is still beneficial. It still outweighs the risks of getting the virus and passing the virus to the baby.
Yes, of course. I mean, even if it's minimal, there's still something. And so, yes, it is important. Minimal breastfeeding, how do you know it's minimal? You might be surprised. The baby might be getting a lot more than you think. And the breastfeeding is also a relationship. Hey, it's not just about the milk. And I think that's very important to remember, because a lot of doctors say, well, it's only a little bit, then just stop. No, the breastfeeding is a relationship. We don't tell infertile couples don't have sex because you can't make a baby. That's what breastfeeding is about, is a special emotional and physical relationship, a close physical and relationship between two people who are in love with each other. Come on. Did you get that? Because I think you were frozen there for a bit.
Oh, we got that. Yeah, that's perfect. I love that. Yes, perfect. So, are there any benefits in expressing and offering to an older child that is not breastfed anymore? So, expressing and offering in a cup to an older child, to take advantage of the immune factors, the protection from breast milk.
Sure, why not? Of course. It's not, it's better than milk, cow's milk.
It's specific to our species, isn't it?
Yeah. That's it. It certainly won't hurt. You know, if you buy cow's milk at the grocery store, there's no immune factors in there. Only if you get it straight from the cow. But those are not those are immune factors not for humans, but for cows.
Exactly that. Right. So the last question we have here, and that's something that recently came out. Our Prime Minister was live on.
You're frozen.
Oh, can you hear me?
No, I missed it.
Right.
You were frozen.
So our Prime Minister recently came on national TV and said that we are very close to finding a blood test, to getting produced this blood test that helps to search for antibodies in our blood. So if that is completed, then a breastfeeding mom tests positive, as in having had the virus, could her breast milk save the lives of potentially even adults and older people as well?
Yes, I suppose that's true, and it doesn't have to be that the mother has had the virus. There are many immune factors in breast milk that are non-specific, and so sure, it's possible that it will help. And I suppose if there are antibodies that are specific for coronavirus, then okay, so much the better. But it doesn't have to be. You don't have to have the test in order to say my milk can save a life.
Perfect. So we should be getting breast milk into everyone, really.
Yeah, that's right. They have breast milk banks, but
yeah, that's the other thing I was going to ask. The reason it's not a question that was sent to me, but obviously that is something that people can do. They can use donated breast milk, but I'm not really sure, and I'm not sure if you know more about this, during this pandemic, whether this is something that is still easy to find, or I suppose people, they might be struggling a bit with donations, or do you know anything else about it?
Not really, not more than what I've just said. I mean, there are breast milk banks, but they're usually reserved, the milk is usually reserved for premature babies.
Perfect. So I don't think, Dr. Jack, I'm just looking through to see if we have any more questions. Well, I think we've answered all the questions that we've received. And I'm just looking through. If anyone has any other questions and they want to send through now, that's your chance. All right, I do have questions about breastfeeding, but they are not related to the coronavirus, and I think that's our chat today is about. If we're going to take all the breastfeeding questions, we would be here forever. So
okay, so all those people who want to ask questions, go to our website, www.ibconline.ca, and if you go over to the right of the menu, there is something called blogs, and there are a lot of blogs that will answer your questions. There are videos there, there are articles, etc. And we have it in French as well, in case you have French people listening to you, French-speaking people listening to you. We have a few in Vietnamese, a few in Chinese.
All around the world.
Okay, so we have some in China. So we have French, we have Chinese, some in Vietnamese, and a couple in Italian.
Thank you very much once again, Dr. Jack, and I'll let you go now. Thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you, Isadora.